Interest. We need to understand interest before we talk about simple interest. In the real world, other than your family or friends, you're probably not going to be able to borrow money from them and just pay it back. Because if that was the situation, did anyone win? Only you won because your broke ass needed to borrow some money. All right? In real life, if I was to loan you money, I would expect that money back and more. The and more is known as interest. Okay? So lenders, banks or people with money, when they loan money to borrowers, they're investing in you. They're trying to grow their money by loaning the money out to you and just waiting a little bit and expecting a bit more back. That bit more, the fee on top of the money they expect back, is called interest. So the first three things that I need you to get down, or I'd like you to get down, is the money borrowed or loaned out is known as the principal, not with an E, with an A, principal. The fee that the lender charges to the borrower is known as interest. I like to call it the cherry on top. I'll loan you this cake out as long as you give me that cake back with a cherry on top. That's what the interest is. Yeah? And then at the end of the arrangement, the borrower needs to pay back the total amount, which is the principal and the interest. Can you get those three definitions, please? Right, the first style of interest that we deal with is known as simple interest or flat rate interest. I will try to fool you by calling something flat rate. So that's why I'm showing you here that they are one and the same. Simple interest is the same as flat rate interest. How does it work? The interest charged per year is a specific interest rate percentage of the original principal. So you have this formula. Get that formula down. Does anyone know how I convert a percentage to a decimal? What would 50% be as a decimal? 0 point? Good. What did I do to the 50? I divided it by 100. Okay? So if you're a bit rusty with that, divide the percent by 100. E.g., 50% equals 0.5 as a decimal. So your simple interest formula, the amount of simple interest you pay is equal to the principal times by the rate as a decimal times by the time in years. It's the formula, get the example. We'll do 4 examples here. If you have highlighters in your test, please feel free to highlight important information. I've given you a formula that tells you the simple interest, and it needs the principal, rate, and time. Highlight that information in the question. First thing the highlight would be, is the question a simple interest question? Yes, because it friggin' tells you. Does it tell you how much you're investing in that question? Example 1, how much is being invested? Yep, you're putting $8,000 away. What's the interest rate? 7. You're putting it away at 7% per year for 18 months. So I've highlighted the things I need to know. It's asking me to find the simple interest. So SI is equal to, what's the principal? $8,000. Times by the interest rate, what's 7%, but as a decimal? 0.07 times by, what would 18 months be, but in years? 1.5, good. Someone in the mainstream class says 2 1/3. I'm like, what? It's on YouTube. If you're ever stuck and you don't know, you go 18 divided by 12, and that will spit out 1.5 as well. Okay? Because if it was 19 months, then you're not going to be able to spit out 1.5, right? So if you do need to work it out, you just divide it by 12. So calculator, $8,000 times by 0.07 times by 1.5. that tells me that the simple interest that I will make on that investment is going to be $840 over 1.5 years. Example 2, if you look at the example 2 question, what statement there tells me that it's a simple interest question? Because it doesn't say simple interest.
Flat rate.
Flat rate, so I'm using simple interest. I'm investing $2,700 at 5%. Find the total value, so don't be tricked. It's not asking for the cherry on top, it's asking for what do I have in total of the investment after 8 years. So you still use this formula, but you need to remember that this formula is giving you the interest only. And this question is asking for the total value. So I'm investing 2,700, 0.05 times by 8. 2,700 times 0.05 times by 8. So that's going to generate me $1,080 of interest, but that's not the answer to the question because it wants the total value of the investment. So the total value will be the 2,700 that I invested plus the 1,080 that I generated on top of that. What's that going to be? $3,780 is what I end up with at the end. Can you get that example down, please? I'll only do example 3 because you guys are pretty competent with the algebra. The other class, they need multiple examples of how to find unknowns. Example, you want to earn $6,000 of interest on a 4-year investment of $18,000. What flat rate do you need? Is this asking you to find the interest that I generate, or is it telling me how much interest I generate? It tells me. It wants me to find what R is. I didn't give you a formula for R, and I don't want to give you a formula for R. I gave you a formula that tells you SI is equal to P times R times T. So put in what you know. I want to generate $6,000 of interest. What was my investment to generate that $6,000 of interest? 18,000. I don't know what the rate is. That's what it's trying to find out. So leave it as R. Do I know the time that I'm keeping it there for? 4? Nothing stopping you doing 18,000 times by 4 because the order of multiplication doesn't matter. 1 times 2 times 3 gives you the same exact answer as 2 times 1 times 3. Both exactly the same. So you can work out 6,000, leave that alone. You can go 18,000 times by 4. So you've got 72,000 times by R. Almost there. I want to know what R is. I don't want to know what 72,000 times by R is. What's 72,000 doing to R? What's the opposite of multiplying by 72,000? What do I have to do on the other side to keep it balanced? Divide by 72,000. That's going to cancel. The rate is going to be 6,000 divided by 72,000, 0.083, which I've cut to 3 dp. That's a decimal, but we don't say rates as a decimal. What would 0.083 be as a percentage? Therefore, 8.3% per annum. I won't do example 4 because it's literally a variation of example 3, and you've shown me that you can do algebra. I'll stop the video there.